Welcome back to the baseball podcast. I'm here to report on this tragic day that we recorded an intro for this podcast the day that we filmed it, and it was truly horrific.
It was unlistenable too.
I think we should release it anyway, just to be
It
safe.
literally, like, the audio was so bad. It was literally us being like, so to our get it and you get thanks for on show. It was brutal, dude. It was horrible.
We're back here to redo it, you know. And I gotta say, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I feel like this is gonna be a better intro.
You think we're gonna do it?
Do what?
Just make
We're
it
gonna. I've had about enough of you.
happen. So Tom, did you enjoy our chat today or whenever we did it?
No, we did not. Well, we did have a chat today, but it was not the one that you're talking about on
That's
the
true.
podcast.
That's true.
And we did have an excellent chat about an article I wrote about Albert Pujols,
About Albert Pujols' lifetime 0 ERA.
which you should link, by the way.
Yeah, I could put it
Um,
in.
but yes, you know what? I would say we had a lovely chat with a certain Canadian representative of Australia League Baseball. Um, yeah, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one, okay? Because let me tell you something. This guy, this guy rules. That's all I'll say on the matter.
Yeah.
I'm keeping mum about the rest of it.
We had on. You ready for his title, Tom?
No, I'm not ready. Hold on. Okay, I'm ready now.
Now you're in a Zen state. We had on Eric Balnar, media content and broadcast manager of Baseball Australia. And he was previously, I believe he said, the assistant general manager of the Perth Heat. Hey, thanks for making sure to open your bottle on the air.
You know what? Sure thing, bud.
But Eric has been involved with the Australian Baseball League for, I think, close to 10 years. With, like, day-to-day operations, player, acquisition, that kind of thing. And now he recently moved into a role with Baseball Australia, so it's not a team specific one. Now he's working to promote the game of baseball as a whole. So it was a really cool chat about baseball in Australia, the ABL, the growth of the game there, and we, of course, we got into the World Baseball Classic and that kind of thing. So it was awesome. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying Tom's shirt right now.
Yeah. Yeah, my very Castellanosian look.
So what happened? What had happened was Tom texted me, or I texted Tom when Nick Castellanos a few days ago had that,
No, no,
like,
no, hold on. This story starts before that. There's a prologue. So I came home from the gym the other day, and my brother, you guys know the illustrious Brian, he was laying on my bed, right? And
yeah, what
he
a
had a
good start.
he had a button-down shirt on, and he had like three buttons undone. And we were getting up to go somewhere. So I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm like, let's go. So he gets up, and I see that he has his three buttons undone, and I was like, it's a very Nick Castellanosian look. And he doesn't really watch the Phillies, so I explained to him like, oh, well, Nick Castellanos doesn't wear an undershirt under his jersey, and he wears like three buttons undone, and it's very, very cool.
Would
Okay.
you say, as Brian so eloquently puts things, it's very Greco-Roman?
It could be. It could
It,
be.
he's a very sexual player, Nick Castellanos. Am I wrong though? Like
Wait, hold on.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I would call Nick Castellanos a beefcake.
Whoa. I might be willing to extend that title to him.
Have you ever seen those Jim Palmer underwear ads?
No.
Oh, it's the greatest.
Yeah.
Apparently Jim Palmer, like,
So you're saying you look at them and you say,
Wow, dude, this is awesome.
yeah, apparently Jim Palmer in the 70s, like, made waves by, like, modeling for underwear ads. Apparently he was like in the time, like, a sex symbol. He's like super hot.
yeah,
That's Nick Castellanos, man. He's got the chest hair popping. He's a good looking guy.
he's got the chain.
He's got the chain, man.
Dude,
He's a sexual man.
so once I described my brother as Castellanosian, I went downstairs to put a different shirt on because he told me that I had that gym bouquet, and I was like, "Why? Yes, I do." So I put this shirt on, and I was like, "You know what? I'm going to be Nick Castellanosian as well." So we were both walking around just chest hair into the max, and now being Castellanosian is a thing for us. So
Yeah. Well, so what I said was I saw that Nick Castellanos play a few days ago where he like saved the game by catching it in foul territory and then throwing out Luke Williams at the plate. I texted Tom and was like, "Oh my gosh, Castellanos was an amazing play or whatever." And Tom texts me back and he sends that picture and he goes, "It must be the picture that's like Williams."
yeah, because I took a selfie whilst being
Can you
Castellanosian.
send that to me? I'll put it up on the screen.
You already have it. I've sent it to you
Oh
like
yeah,
three
you're right. I already have it.
times.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
So
But so
since I began being Castellanosian, Nick Castellanos has been on absolute tear. So I'm going to be taking all the credit for that.
it's amazing. But so Tom texted me that and he said it was very Castellanosian of him. And I was like, I read that as like Geonosian from Star Wars, like Geonosian.
And I said,
Castellan-
you read it well, brother.
We're morons, dude. Somebody out there is like, like, oh wow, Eric Balnar, I know that guy. I'm gonna listen to that podcast he's on. And they're like 10 minutes in, like, what are these two doing?
Yeah, they're 10 minutes in and they're going like,
We're talking about Nick Castellanos' chest hair.
yeah, why are they talking about Nick Castellanos being a beefcake?
I mean, am I wrong?
No. You know what? You're not wrong.
Not at all.
Okay? If
Um,
there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, brother. I gotta
Honestly,
say.
we should have gotten Eric's opinion on Nick Castellanos.
We should have been. I actually managed to. I unintentionally deceived him into thinking that I was a diehard Mariners
Yeah, I
fan.
was thinking about that. I
I didn't want to like argue with him on the podcast. But,
I
like,
did. I
I was
really
just
liked
wearing Mariners stuff because I like it, and like, yeah, I do like the Mariners, but at the end of the day, like, obviously, I'm more of a Castellanosian fan.
Well, but think about it though. Like if you're some guy who works in baseball and these two idiots hit you up and are like, "Hey, you want to come on our show?" Sure, yeah, no problem. You're not gonna like go back and listen to all their other episodes and be like, "Oh wow, they must be Phillies fans."
Maybe you're not.
But like he
Maybe you're
sure
not.
just
Well,
hopped
wait,
on.
he knew you were a Phillies fan.
Yeah, because I had told him in our emails that I was in Philadelphia. Um, so I think he assumed. But if he just hops on and sees some dude wearing Mariners stuff, then he just assumes you're Mariners fan. And God bless Eric too, because he kept referring back to that and being like,
Yeah,
yeah, these ABL players are really like Jake Fraley, Mariners guy for you.
yeah.
And
Ryan
sitting there like,
Roland Smith.
well, and you're
He's
sitting
on the
there like,
Mariners broadcasting team.
I really like that you're sitting there like, yeah, he was Mariner, yeah.
Dude, I felt so bad because I wasn't like intentionally deceiving him, but that was like kind of how it came.
No, it's just not worth getting it. Like, what's the point in being like, actually,
Yeah.
I'm not a Mariners fan.
Yeah,
I'm just killing
I'm a
the
Phillies fan,
conversation. Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, no. Thank you, Eric, for putting up with us. And also because I already edited this pretty much. We just had to re-record an intro. And at the end, like I realized, because I remember at the end, I asked him to play Omer Descends with us, and then I asked him like one more question and whatever. And like 4 different times, I was like, Eric, I know you got to go, and then launched into one more thing.
Yeah, you're really like, and another thing.
Yeah, it was Columbo, man. One more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, is that the most dated reference we've made on the podcast so far? Other than like when we did the podcast about like the World War One players and we were like talking about Harvard Eddie.
Columbo. Yeah, it might be actually. You're right.
So welcome to the Columbo podcast.
Yeah. No, I think we're ready to kick it over to Eric. I will just say, everybody out there listening, all three of you, say a prayer because my brother's wonderful. And he's not
Allegedly.
Yeah, he's not a baseball fan. Like he enjoys it. There's nothing wrong with it, but like, he doesn't pay attention to baseball. And he has a son who is 5 years old, and evidently he's starting to take an interest in sports. And so my brother Aaron texted me and was like, "Hey, Luca's really that's his son. And he goes, Luca's really getting into sports. You want to hang out and like watch a couple, a game or two together?" And he's like, "Because you can teach him about it like more than I can." I was like, "Okay, let's do it." So today they're coming over in like half an hour to watch a Phillies game. Wish me luck, man. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have the potential to make or break a future MLB player's career here.
Are you saying that I can mold him.
Mold. Yeah, it's gonna be the darkness with Bane.
Yeah, I was going for Bane. Yeah, yeah.
Molded by it. Uh, Everybody thinks they do a good Bane voice, and nobody does, and me included. You know.
Yeah,
It's
Bane.
one of those things that like 8 years ago everybody was walking around going, "Ah, you think darkness is your ally?" And it's like, no, you don't sound that good, dude. I gotta be honest with you.
It's kind of
Me
like
too.
Trump.
I did the
Like
same
everybody
thing.
tries to do Trump, and it doesn't go well. Most
Yeah. Can we actually talk really quick about for those of you who follow me on Facebook, which I'm assuming is nobody,
yeah.
I've been having a very public reckoning with my past self. Because
Go
I
ahead.
keep getting, it'll be like, you have a memory from today in like 2010. And I've just posted the most cringe stuff of all time
What's the
back
most
in like
cringe?
2010.
Give me the most cringe.
Um, you know what? Let's go to the tapes. That's kind of all I have posted on Facebook right now. So the most recent one, this is from yesterday, okay? And this is a memory from September 22nd, 2010. I posted, you might have just realized it, or maybe you haven't yet, but it's been that way for a long, long time.
What does that even mean?
You know what that means? You know what that means?
Give me another one. That wasn't funny. Give me another one.
Yeah, that one, that's just a little palate, cleanser because that one's just nonsense. It's like,
Yeah, that's not
okay,
really cringe. It's just stupid.
okay. This is a good one. This is from the day before that.
So you were on a roll.
Yeah, I was on a real tear.
Also, wait,
Uh,
2010, you were like 18 years old, right?
um, I would have been 17.
But my point is, you weren't like a little because like I think of like when I got a Facebook, I was like 11.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
like this, you
but
were like
when you're
pretty much an
11, you
adult.
post different cringe. You don't post
Right, like you were like pretty much
edgelordism.
an adult when you were when you were behaving this way.
Well, I would say it's debatable whether or not a 17-year-old is basically an adult.
I'm just
Now that I'm 30, I look at 17-year-olds. I'm like, yeah, you're still a kid. But so this is the best one. I might build a bridge, but be warned. Too many infractions, and I got the dynamite prepped. Why did I post this stuff?
Also, like,
What was wrong with me?
was something going on in your life that
I don't remember.
like led you to this, or were you just because that screams to me like, don't cross me. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, that's like what it means. But
Like that screams to me like I'm happy to be your friend, but you don't want me to be your enemy.
yeah, but don't be my enemy.
And you're this like 17-year-old nerd, like you
Yeah,
work in a museum. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I did really quick. I posted a status about Nick Castellanos 12 years ago. What is it that the baseball gods have against Philly in these last two games? Every time we get a base runner, the next batter hits into a double play.
Mm.
Until the picture,
Cassiano.
that was Nick Castellanos in September.
That's quite Cassianosian.
Um, in 2015, I posted officially beginning a grassroots campaign to convince the Phillies to trade for Marcell Ozuna. And I reposted that. I may have said this before, but wow, did this age poorly. And then this was what really started I'm officially cancel culturing my former self. Okay. This is the worst one. It's been a long while, but now I'm back. And you better be ready because I'm about to lay down the law. Get ready for the quirkocracy. Why did I post this stuff? Like, it's so bad. It really is like
Quirkocracy.
the quirkocracy. And you know what you have to say to that? You have to say,
Take it easy.
that's it. That was, you know what? That was also 2010. September 2010 was a weird month for me.
Uh,
Woo, that was not good.
Stupidest thing you've ever said. Oh, Read it again.
Okay, hold on. All right. I was seeing if I posted any other ones, which I didn't.
No, no,
Let's
read
see,
it
where is it?
again. We're not topping that.
That was what I like I said, that was what started my cancel
Oh,
culturing of myself.
oh,
Like, I
I'm
want
in
you guys to
tears.
know I will be leaving the podcast over this.
I'm in tears. Read it again.
All right, ready for that? I think I had like 8 Facebook friends at the time too. Like
Well, 5 after this.
after this,
All right,
what do
all
you think
right.
it's gonna go down? I'm gonna lose 800 something Facebook friends.
Read it again. Read it
Okay.
again.
It's been a long while, but now I'm back. Back is in all caps, by the way. And you better be ready because I'm about to lay down the law. Get ready for ... New line. The Quirkocracy.
Now, look at the time. Like, did you have an idea of like what you wanted the Quirkocracy to be? Like, were you like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this?
Dude, I don't know. I didn't have a constitution drafted.
Or was this just you going, it would sound cool?
Yeah, it's sort of like a technocracy, except I'm in charge.
Yeah, it's an autocracy with Quirk at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
What is wrong with
I don't know. I'm sure it's still wrong with me. It just was more manifest in 2010. Mm.
Oh my goodness, dude. The Quirkocracy.
I want you to know.
Have I ever laughed that hard on the podcast?
Yeah, you laughed that hard over Randy Choate.
Yo, you know what had me laughing this hard? I was on r/baseball the other day, and there was some, I don't know, Mike Cleavenger was in the news for something, and somebody put up a clip of him being interviewed, and you know what he looks like? He's got like, sort of like a baby face, and he's got like the man bun and everything.
Yeah.
And people were dragging him because he has some off the field dramas. We don't need to get into that. But somebody in the comments just goes, "Wow, that is an unattractive woman."
Yes, were you just melting down?
Oh my gosh, man. I was cracking up.
I was cracking
All
up.
right. We got to get back to Eric.
Yeah, let's send it to Eric. Maybe we'll release that as a bonus segment.
Yeah, maybe we should separate these because people who want to actually listen to Eric shouldn't be forced to listen to like 40 minutes of us going through your Facebook. Oh my gosh.
Going through the highlights of
And
my
I will say,
Real.
like it's not just you. Like everybody's Facebook is great. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, Brian's is almost as good, if not a little bit better.
Like I'm sure my Facebook was like the worst, dude. I remember when I first got a Facebook, I was in 6th grade, right? And we had just gone on a trip to Camp Canadensis, which you're familiar
Whoa.
with. Yeah.
Deep cut.
Yeah. And so we went there, and I remember it was like 2008, and Brian Wilson was like just coming on the scene as being really good. And there were these pictures, and there's like 11-year-old Ethan going. Remember
Oh.
Dude, it's horrifying.
This is the same era as what I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but you trying to nickname yourself.
Talked about this.
Yeah, and settling on Captain Charisma. Wasn't that like kind of recently?
Yeah, it was. I don't remember why we talked about it, but yes, we did recently.
So
but
I think that what we really need to face as a people is that we were all cringe when we first got on social media. Nobody was ready for this.
Okay.
Everybody's parents were like, "Oh, no, don't put, don't just stream of consciousness onto, Facebook, MySpace, all that type of stuff, because this stuff never goes away." And we would be like, that can't possibly be true. And here we are, 13 years later.
Like partly not grasping the fact that it never goes away, but it's also like I think equally as importantly being like, but I'm cool.
Yeah, that isn't it.
Things that I'm putting out there for public consumption are
yeah, I'm a badass.
11-year-old me staring my mom in the face going, I won't regret this. You know what I mean?
And you know what? In a way, I don't regret this because I've been having a great time just reckoning with it.
You're absolutely right. Like I remember, like I was telling Brian about this last night. My first ever Facebook profile picture was Megan Fox. like, like this was the year I grew up in. Like I had no,
Mine was Pikachu in like a sniper rifle crosshairs.
isn't it amazing? Like the things that you grab to as a kid. So like the 2008 Phillies were like right when I started getting into baseball. Like 2007 was the first time I paid attention. And
Right.
like Howard Utley Rollins, those guys. So if I had like a Ryan Howard profile picture, especially living in like the Philadelphia area,
Right.
people
Understandable.
baseball fan, no sweat, whatever. I remember this woman named Janice who went to my church growing up, who was so nice, came to me one day and she was like, I don't know, she was like 25 or 30. And she came to me and was like, "Hey, you like baseball, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Do you want like my brother's old baseball stuff? He's moving and he's getting rid of it." And I was like, "Sure." And it was like baseball cards, I think like a mitt and stuff. And there were these old World Series tapes in there, like VHS tapes. This is like 2007. And there were these old World Series baseball like tapes in there. And so I watched them and I remember it was the 2000 World Series, the Subway Series, the Mets and the Yankees, and then the 95 World Series, the Indians and the Braves. And like that was my baseball because like I grew up without cable. I couldn't watch the Phillies every night. So I would get like one game a week on like Fox on Saturday mornings or whatever.
Right. And also the Phillies were bad at this point in time.
I started getting good at it. So I was super into baseball, but I couldn't just like I didn't have MLB TV or anything. I couldn't just watch baseball whenever I wanted to. So I'd pop
Right.
tapes and like get my baseball fix. And so I got so into the
I love your like,
yeah,
give me that 95 World Series.
into the 95 World Series because like that's all I really knew. And so like I thought like David Justice was the coolest, you know what I mean? And I guess still floating around at that point. But like I thought he was so cool. Like I remember I had a like Carlos Baerga was my profile picture at one point.
Yo.
Bagging up all these guys that were good like 15 years ago at the time. You know what I
Dude,
mean?
you have like Mark Lemke as your Facebook picture.
I remember being like, "Oh man, nothing better than little Ryan Kleska."
No, you gotta go with Paul Sorrento.
Sorrento, yeah.
Paul Sorrento, 95 World Series hero.
I remember after that, like I kept an eye out. Like my mom would drag me to the thrift store or something, and I kept an eye out for World Series tapes because I thought they were so cool. And I ended up with two more. I ended up with the '01 and '02 World Series. So like those four World Series, I know really well. Like I know like a bunch of the players and like who did what and everything. Any of the other World Series in between, I got nothing. You know what I mean? Like
Is 02 the Angels Giants?
yeah, which was an amazing World Series. Went seven.
Right.
And then '01 was amazing too. That was the D-backs one with George Bush's greatest first pitch ever. So it was awesome. Like it was really cool, and like I'm glad I know about it. But
And
it was,
also the Yankees lost at the end, so that was nice.
but like I have these really random years of just knowing everything about the World Series winning team, and then nothing else.
Right. Yeah, so you'll pull out names like Junior Spivey and like
I'll go deeper than that. Are you kidding? Like I'll be like Ortiz, you know what I mean? Like
who?
Remember Russ Ortiz?
Oh yeah.
He was
Yeah,
bad.
Astros great.
I was even as a Giant, like a Brave.
Great. Yeah, you know what? I'm happy for you.
I'm really glad I spoke then. All
Listen,
right.
guys, I think this bonus segment has gone on long enough.
I think this will have to be its own thing. But anyway, whatever we end up doing, we'll kick it back to Eric. Enjoy.
Yeah, this one'll go on our Patreon.
You know, how funny would it be if I weren't recording this whole time?
um we are recording.
I know that, but
All right, so yeah, no, you know what? I think we got a nice little bonus segment. Eric, the floor is yours.
Eric,
Like 4 days ago.
thank you for coming on the show.
I'm Ethan. Tom is obviously the other one that isn't
Yeah,
you.
that's me.
So
I'm
we're
the one who
huge.
says Tom in the corner. That's me.
Oh yeah, it's a good point.
Oh, perfect.
So we're
Mhm.
we're huge baseball fans in general. We're huge fans of the ABL. Are you familiar with Dan Vaughn?
Oh yeah.
So we had Dan Vaughn on a few times, and he was great. And he told us about the Perth Heat and the ABL in general. Explain to me really fast, what exactly is your role with the Giants?
With the Giants, I was working for the team for 9 years. So I was the general manager of operations for a little bit. And then I was in charge of media and communications. And the last few years, I've been media, communications, and the play-by-play broadcaster. I recently started at Baseball Australia, which sort of encompasses Australian Baseball League, Team Australia Baseball, and all the Baseball Australia events. So I'm the marketing content. I'm the manager of marketing content, media content and broadcasting is what I should say.
Okay.
Media content and broadcasting with the Australian baseball, or with baseball in Australia, you can call it.
No, you're fine. So how did this start? How did a Canadian guy like you get involved with the Giants and the ABL and Australia as a whole, really?
Yeah, moved to Australia in 2014, and just to sort of get settled, I needed a place in a community really to get involved in, to be totally honest. And I have a journalism degree, worked in media and communications for a major junior hockey team in the Ontario Hockey League here. So had some experience both with journalism and in media and communications and with broadcasting. Like I broadcast hockey games in university and a little bit after that as well. So I just sort of offered my services to the Giants, basically being like, hey, I love baseball. I have these skills. Do you need any help? And literally the day that I landed, the first day in the country, they were like, okay, our ground announcer, our PA announcer, he's out sick tonight. Like, can you do the PA announcing and get on the microphone for the game at the field tonight? And I was like, by tonight, do you mean tonight? Like tonight, like this,
Yeah.
today's night? Because I just got off a 30-hour plane, and they're like, yeah, can you do it? So I started off doing that, did some PA announcing, and I basically volunteered with the Adelaide Bite, they were called at the time, for a year.
Sure.
And then eventually got offered basically the assistant general manager job, and then everything just sort of spiraled from there. So now I'm an Australian citizen and part of I was like with the World Baseball Classic Australian national team. So yeah, it just started off as like a completely coincidental, oh, I think I can help out, volunteer, find my footing in a community. It's now turned into me being, the voice of Australian baseball effectively.
That's so cool. So you didn't, so I just assumed that you had this love for baseball, you had this journalism degree and everything, and so you decided Australia would be a good place to get some experience, but it sounds like the opposite way around. You ended up in Australia for something else and just decided, hey, baseball, why not? While you're
and like I always loved sports, right? So, and I love baseball growing up, like diehard Jays fan. I used to go, I mean, I'm sitting here in my family home that I grew up in Guelph, Ontario, and there's an inter-county baseball league team here called the Guelph Royals. And when I was a kid, I used to go to the park with like a recorder and commentate the baseball games just to myself, just because always kind of sort of obsessed with baseball and sports in general. So it's not like it's like I didn't love baseball, like a bit sports obsessed, love the Jays, love the Guelph Royals, this small local team here. So that's sort of how I got involved in it. So yeah, just totally sort of random, but there's been a bunch of really cool connections to it actually. So like on that first day when I was at the field, I got handed the microphone, handed a script, met a girl named Ashley who was just like, okay, we're going to do this now. Here's the script. Here's what you got to do. You're jet lagged, whatever. The guy throwing out the ceremonial first pitch was a guy named Luke Prokopek. And I was floored.
Oh, big leaguer, right?
We know that guy.
Well, I know him because at my first big league game that I ever went to was in Detroit. Toronto Blue Jays playing the Detroit Tigers. And this Blue Jays pitcher pitched the game, won the game, and that was my first memory is like this pitcher winning the game for the Toronto Blue Jays. It was his only win of that season, as it turns out, and he's from Adelaide. He was one of 3 big leaguers at the time. So the pitcher that I saw in my first ever big league game ended up being the guy throwing out the ceremonial first pitch in my first ever Australian Baseball League game in Australia. And then, he ended up coaching the team, Luke Prokopek. So just totally random connections that to Adelaide that it sort of always maybe felt like it was meant to be, I guess.
Yeah, really. Well, I remember the first game I ever went to was Tomooka for the Brewers. So I'll have to go over to Japan, see if I can get him to throw out a pitch for me.
It's weird how you remember those first
it is,
especially in baseball, right?
Oh, and a terrible. I think it was like 2004. It was a terrible Phillies team too. They were running like David Bell out there.
I went to a game in 2004, but full disclosure, I really didn't care that much about baseball at the time, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But the first game that I went to, that when I actually liked baseball, was in 2008, and Brett Myers threw a complete game against the Nationals.
It's weird the stuff you remember, man.
You're right. Always remember your first in baseball, right? And yeah, Luke Prokopek was the winning pitcher. His only win that year in his probably, I think, his career with the Toronto Blue Jays, actually.
So is this now like what you do full time, or do you have something else and this is on the side?
Yeah, full time. Yeah. So yeah, my official job description is the broadcast manager, content manager, media manager for Baseball Australia. And yeah, like I said, that includes Team Australia Baseball, Baseball Australia, and now the ABL. So it's kind of weird. I'm going from like a team role with the Adelaide Giants to now it's sort of the league perspective, but it's kind of a cool challenge, right? Like you get to be on the ground with the team and you see how the operation runs day to day. I was in charge of some of the operations day to day.
Right.
And now I get to help the teams tell their baseball story, I suppose. So big challenge. I mean, baseball is like a third tier sport in Australia, right? Like I don't have to tell you guys how good the quality of the Australian Baseball League is. Like you can watch a game and know that this isn't, little kids playing and this isn't something that they're just figuring out how to do. Like this is a legitimate league and a pretty good one at that. So now we just got to find a way to communicate that to Australians. So no one's really figured that out yet. I probably won't, but I'm going to give it a crack.
No, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. I promise. So I have a question for you about the quality that you were talking about. Two guys jump to mind that I can think of for the Adelaide Giants. Curtis Mead, who I think is going to be one of the greatest Australian players ever, and Logan O'Hoppe, being a Phillies fan, I'm familiar with him, who's now going to be a really good catcher for the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were the assistant general manager or something to that equivalent. How do you go about getting these guys? I'm assuming Curtis Mead is not as difficult because he's a hometown kid, but a guy like Logan O'Hoppe, there's this deal with the Phillies. How does all that happen of player acquisition, I guess I'll put it?
Yeah, so I mean, the teams are basically made up of 50-50 of imports, we call them, which are basically non-Australians and Australians.
Right.
So it's a pretty effective way to get over import players by partnering with a major league club. And a lot of different teams have had a lot of different partnerships, just like they're not affiliate teams, but they send over players to winter ball. And so
Right.
The Philadelphia Phillies for 4 years, I think now, with the Giants have sent over players to Australia, and they send over good players. Like Logan O'Hoppe was sort of on their radar as a guy that could have really developed. And there's a two-way conversation that happens with the Phillies and that happens with the Giants. The Giants will say, look, we need a catcher because we only have one in Adelaide. We need an outfielder. We need an infielder, and we need some pitchers. They can be starters, relievers, whatever they are. What do you got? And the Phillies will say, okay, maybe this guy got hurt this year, needs some more at-bats. This guy is just a 19-year-old kid. Maybe we need to send him out of the country just to get some more experience, right? Like in Logan's case, he didn't go to college. He was signed out of drafted out of high school, didn't have that college experience, never really had that experience of living away from home. So he was just 18 or 19 when he was in Adelaide. And, Logan I think it was a big experience for him. Like if you talk to him, he will admit like it was a crazy experience for him, being away from his family, being in another country, having to do everything sort of for himself. He's not playing baseball every day either, right? He's playing 4 games a week. And what are you doing the work in between? So that was why O'Hoppe got sent over. Great talent, great leadership qualities, super young, super raw, not just to baseball, but to the world. So they sent him over to Australia to find not just his baseball ability, but to find himself. Like, who is Logan O'Hoppe, and what a great experience. You get to go with players that don't speak English, players that are from Australia, players that you might have played with in the minor league system, and you're the catcher, right? Like, you got to lead these guys on the field. And Logan, in his instance, man, like, you want to talk about work ethic? Like, this guy like took all the extra hacks you could ask for in the cage, worked with the pitchers overtime, was the first point of call. If anybody needed to catch a bullpen or a side, he was the one that was like, yep, I'm on it. And on top of that, his agent and the Phillies had advised him to, I'll always remember this about Logan. They said, you need to read more. Like, you need to read more books is what the advice was. So he always had a book in his hand. So after practice, before practice, he was hanging around maybe the ticket office or around the field or sitting in the stands, and Logan O'Hoppe was reading books. And it was just to help him relax before games, learn different techniques, learn from reading, right? He was there to learn about himself, and just one of the nicest guys. And there's like literally no surprise that he made the big leagues as fast as he could. Like, you knew this guy was a big leaguer when he was here. Just like you knew Curtis Mead was going to be a big leaguer. There's some guys you just know from the way they work, the way they go about it. So yeah, all the teams, to answer your question, have these partnerships. Like the Perth Heat have Tampa Bay Rays players coming over, and they always seem to send good ones over, like Jake Fraley, like a Mariners guy, right? Like, how good was Jake Fraley?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's in Cincinnati and obviously doing his thing there. And Tristan Gray just got a call up, and he hit that huge home run in the 8th inning the other day. He played in Perth. Christopher Sanchez, Philly,
exactly.
Right? Like, he was traded for Curtis Mead.
Yeah, I still look back on that and I'm upset, even though Sanchez has been good this year.
Yeah,
Sanchez has been pretty good this year, but it is pretty easy to sit there and be like, but I'd love to have Curtis Mead, though.
But it's a good relationship between the clubs and the ABL teams, because the ABL teams get players and guys that can raise the level of baseball and raise the competition for the Australian players. And the MLB clubs get a good, safe, high quality league that these guys can get at bats with. And we take care of them, right? Like we coach them, high caliber coaching. And I actually wrote a story. It's on ABL.com right now, just published today. So there's been 68 players since 2010 who have played in Australia and then moved on to the major leagues, 28 in this year alone. So I put together like a roster and a starting lineup of what my team would be of just using only ABL alumni. And Logan Hoppy, the catcher, Ronald Acuna, he seems like an okay player.
Yeah, I'd say Ronald Acuna seems like, I would call him a B tier player at minimum.
Yeah, but I just wanted to fit him in there. Cool name, right? So like I felt
right,
maybe he'll turn into something, right? So okay, let me ask you about that. And I know Tom wants to get into the baseball in Australia in general, which I think is interesting. We can do in a second. But I have one more question. We talked to Dan about this. I feel like, and maybe you're the perfect guy, because I feel like for a long time, the ABL, you just named Ronald Acuna, like Liam Hendricks played down there, Andrew Kittredge, you say Kikuchi, a lot of all-stars have played in the ABL. And yet I've noticed that Baseball Australia will do this thing where their Twitter feed is mostly like, come check out the women's championship, come check out the under 15 World Cup. And all that stuff's great. And I'm glad they're growing the game of baseball. But if I wanted to grow baseball in Australia, not as an Australian, so I don't know, but just my guess is I would be pumping Ronald Acuna stuff every single day. I would be pumping Liam Hendricks stuff every single day and being like, look at the all-stars that come out of this league. Send us your players. We'll turn them into all-stars. Like that kind of thing. I feel like the marketing is sort of backwards for a while. Now that you're taking over, tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's nobody's fault, really. Like, it's a resourcing thing. We're a small sport in Australia. Not a lot of people get full-time jobs in baseball. There's really only a handful around the country, a couple at each teams, a couple at the state association, like Baseball South Australia, Baseball New South Wales, and a few at Baseball Australia. And really, like, all those full-time jobs are really focused on operating the sport, the day-to-day, getting the competition set, the insurance, the travel, the national teams, all of that, which is really, really important. But you're right. And I think Caitlin Mason, I got to give big credit to her. She's the marketing and communications big boss, the chief. She sort of identified exactly that wow. And she's not a baseball person. She'll admit that. She is now, so she is a baseball person, but she wasn't a baseball person.
She's a work in progress.
But she'll admit that too. But she identified saying, hey, like, look, we got to tell some of these unbelievable stories. So they created a position which is just to focus on telling these really, really cool stories. And that's my position. So there's too many stories to tell. And I guess we got to kind of play around and find out what works best. But exactly those stories. So every week I'm trying to write a story that baseball fans in Australia can share. And it's been working. Our website clicks have gone up. Our shares have gone up. Our engagement's gone up. But basically, to share those points of pride. So everything from, here's a list of the 34 Australians that are playing full-time professional baseball in the United States, including some big leaguers. Here's a list of all the coaches that are in the United States working full-time in baseball and coming back. Here's a list of every single player that has played in the ABL and moved on to play in the major leagues. Hey, let's make a team out of this. Like, maybe it actually would be a pretty competitive team for how this would. So it's figuring out how to tell those stories. And I think I'm in a good position to do it. I'm going to toot my own horn for that, because I've been around for now 9-10 years. I know the players. I know the stories. I know I'm not new to this, right? Like, I don't really need to figure out who's who. So even when I was at the World Baseball Classic, you could talk to MLB.com reporters, like the broadcasters. Steven Nelson did an amazing job and like at the World Baseball Classic broadcasters for the international feed. But, he would come and talk to me for a little bit before each game. And, there was that great call where he said, like, Tim Kennelly, the ABL GOAT, smashes one to left field, or whatever it was. It was a great call, but it comes from conversations with people like me that says, hey, look, Tim Kennelly is considered the ABL GOAT. And, it's better if other people like yourself even can help tell the story of Australian baseball, sort of legitimizes it. So I don't know the answer, but yeah, we're going to have some fun, and hopefully we can flog off a few of those big names like you're saying.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like, covering it from, like, a fan perspective, too. Like, there's nothing that baseball fans love more than doing, like, all-time, dude, who's your all left-handed hitter squad of all time, And like, yeah, there's limited options for that with Australian players, but like just doing an all-time Australia team, you know? Oh, who's the greatest Australian second baseman who ever played? Let's see, you know? Like Ethan did a lot of that, like historically, which we were originally going to cover a lot of those on the podcast, and sort of turned into more like, you know, stuff people might actually be interested in. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like that's like, you know, what do baseball fans love more than that? Or like arguing over whether or not like on base percentage is a good stat, you know?
I agree. And like, I love that debate, right? Like, and, you know, I think Australians have been sort of shied away from the debate, to be totally honest, but I think they actually love to have the debate, because this year with the ABL, you know, Caitlin Mason, she told me, hey, like, let's get some content out there that gets people like chatting. Nothing offensive, obviously, but just like chatting. So, you know, I called this American player in one of my stories the greatest player in ABL history. And I think he made a great case, to be honest. So, one, he set the home run record that year, and he beat his own record to do it. Two, he had played 4 seasons prior in the ABL, won a championship every single time, and an MVP in one of those years, and just dominating numbers. And this year, he returned to the ABL, and the Brisbane Bandits were back to they were the best regular season team in history, and this guy named TJ Bennett was the center point of this team. And so I said he's the greatest Australian or greatest ABL player of all time. And man, did that piss some people off, right? Like, it was like, no, he's not, it's Tim Kennelly. No, he's not, it's Andrew Scott. But I love that, right? Like, I take no offense from it. I probably would lean towards Tim Kennelly as the GOAT, but like, let's have the conversation, because I think TJ Bennett deserves to be in the chat as the greatest player that's ever played in the ABL for so many reasons. So now we have some data. So let's debate it. Let's talk about it. Like, that stuff shows passion, and people that don't like baseball might be attracted to the passion and then find out something from there, right?
No, I know exactly how you feel. I wrote a couple articles for this website called Aussie Hoopla. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like a basketball website. And one of them, I did that exact same thing, where I was like, if you could put together an all Australian basketball team, what would it look like? And I was thinking of it in terms of like, if I could have peak every single player, how would I win a game? I put Ben Simmons on there. Ben Simmons is what at the time was a wonderful player. And dude, people got red hot. And they were like, how do you not have Andrew Gaze on here? How do you not have Shane Heelstar? And I was like, because Ben Simmons is an all-star. And people were like, you don't watch the Boomers. I was like, well, yeah, I don't. They're on at like 2:00 in the morning here. Sorry, man. So I know exactly how you feel.
Ignite that passion, right? Like, if you can do something that ignites some passion from people, you've done a pretty good job, I think.
Oh yeah, that got way more clicks than anything else. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's not like it's a bad take either. It's not like you put some 6-man scrub that's playing on the Sydney Sixers. Like, you put a #1 overall draft pick, like one of the highest paid Australian athletes of all time. Like, it's not that outrageous, right? But I love that people got ticked off about it.
Right. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Well, Tom, we've gone on about the ABL long enough. Go ahead into your Australia.
So, as I think we all remember, you know, the World Baseball Classic this go around happened to be quite the story for Australia. You know, the Australian team won. I mean, I think that going into it, everybody was like, hey, you know, I think Ethan actually said that they had a shot against Korea, but I remember at the time being like, no. And we're like, hey, maybe they'll give them a good game. And they went in there, and I mean, they looked like the real baseball team on that field.
That was one of the greatest baseball games I've ever watched.
That was incredible. Robbie Glendening, my man.
The thing is, though, is that game was circled on the calendar the second the schedule came out. Like, that was the game that we, Australia, had to win. We had to win the game to get through. So we prepared everything for that game, right? And we were one game at a time, and that game just happened to be first, but it was the most important game. We had to win that to set ourselves up for success. And that was all the focus was at training camp, was training in overspeed. That was all the focus was on the scouting department of the Korean player. Like, it was a huge, huge deal. And, you know, credit to the coaching staff and the players, like, they took that so seriously. This is the biggest and most important baseball games that some of these players will ever play in their entire life. So, I mean, you can't say that for every country too. Some guys are going to play in World Series. Some guys are going to go on and do some incredible things. But to play for your country at the Tokyo Dome in a game like that is the biggest moment of these players' careers and their lives, and they prepared like it was. And that's why, right?
Yeah, and not only did they defeat Korea, but they advanced to the next round, and they ended up losing kind of a nail biter to Cuba. But I mean, right there, I mean, just beating Korea alone is, Australia is more ascendant than anybody recognized in baseball. So, how has that magical run, how has that affected like engagement with baseball in Australia? I know ABL this season hasn't begun yet, but has the engagement spun up more than usual due to that?
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at all the basic, few ways to measure that, I guess, in terms of social media numbers, all that, you can look at the metrics there. More people engaged, more people interested, and that works on a few levels. I think definitely with introductions and starting a conversation with traditional media, like that place of authority, like they're the voice you want talking about your sport. It was a
Hmm.
really good introductory piece because all of a sudden, Australia's in the quarterfinals of the World Cup effectively. People were talking about that. We had a lot of media requests, and then that allowed us to have a bit more credibility for when cool stories like Travis Bazana, who could go in the first round of the next MLB draft, when he starts going off in college, all of a sudden they're more willing to listen. Then Curtis Mead making the big leagues, that makes national news as well. So I think there was a nice little combination. I think it's helped with the intro there. What is interesting though is we have so much engagement actually from Japan. Like Japanese
Mm.
people have fallen in love with Australian baseball. It's really, really, really cool to the point where when we were training for the quarterfinal game versus Cuba, when we came back to our hotel, the hotel lobby was filled with Japanese fans outside, inside, everywhere. It was like we were celebrities. Now, keep in mind, we sometimes play baseball games in front of 300 people on a Thursday night at West Beach in Australia. And here we are getting off a bus, and there's like 3,000 people, it felt like, that were everywhere. Like we had to have security move, like part a seat for us to get to our hotel rooms. And then it was just the craziest experience. And then when it was a pro Australia crowd, when we were playing Cuba, like the
Hmm.
fans were cheering them on. They fell in love with a guy named Tim Kennelly because his daughter was chanting, "Let's go, Daddy." And the crowd was chanting, "Let's go, Daddy," when he was up to bat, following the lead of this little 4-year-old girl, of the daughter of our captain. And then they fell in love with Daryl George because he played a year in Japan and he could speak some Japanese, and he's a great, endearing character on his own. And you add all of that, and that last at bat I'll never forget, because the crowd was just, there was no sound, no music, no anything, and it was just like a standing ovation, huge reception on the last at bat. You knew it was probably going to be our final out, and Daryl George, you saw it on his face, he was smiling. Like you could tell it was a big moment for Australian baseball. Like it was just like, we proved that we're here, that we're legit, we're not to be taken lightly, and hopefully we can launch ourselves forward. So I mean, man, yeah, it was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been a part of, just to be around even the Otani mania, but really
Hmm.
to see Australia get some respect on the international stage and turn some heads and say, holy cow, like these fellas from down under can play some baseball.
Yeah.
So
I
do
mean,
you
not
think
just
that
get some respect, but they earned it because KBO's. I mean, it seems like it's safe to say they're the third best league in
Yeah.
the world. I don't think people would put ABL close to that normally.
No.
And then, yeah, Australia went out, and again, they kind of looked like the real baseball team on that diamond that night. I know that, baseball's never going to be like a top two sport in Australia, but it it does sound like it's on the rise at least.
Yeah, and like more kids are going to college. I think we're opening up some more pathways. If we can focus on getting a few more kids to play the game and just keep them in the sport a little bit longer, and then really, really focus on those high performance programs, getting them to
Hmm.
college, getting them into pro systems, and getting them to a place where the facilities are another level. And I had actually a really good chat with Curtis Mead's longtime girlfriend, who he met in Adelaide, actually. And she has been, obviously she's a big baseball person, especially now, but, she's been learning a lot more about, the high level baseball world now that Curtis is in the big leagues. And when she came back, Curtis came back in the summer and he's coming back again. He'll train with the Giants and he'll keep working out and doing all that. But she was saying, wow, it really is amazing that he actually made the big leagues, taking a look at the facilities that he had to come from. And you have opportunities in Australian baseball. They're just not as common. We have one field that has an indoor cage in all of Adelaide. You have to be willing to go and take every opportunity you can get to get a swing in that cage. We have one professional team that has the best players there for 12 weeks of the year. You have to make sure that you are around them constantly in those 12 weeks. We have one high performance program, only a few people that understand the mechanics of a baseball player from a physical standpoint. Like, the fields that the local clubs play on, they're not fields in the winter time. They're football, like AFL football fields. They have to be converted. So yeah, Curtis took advantage of every opportunity. It was cool. You didn't really realize that until she came back, and we had that great discussion how Curtis Mead is special because he didn't have a lot of opportunities, but every single one that he had in Australian baseball, he took advantage of. But that's the life of an Australian baseball player.
So do you think, going back to the WBC, do you think that the success in the WBC and I guess just showing the quality of talent will impact the ABL in terms of like player participation, like foreign imports? Do you think it'll bring the level of competition to a higher level?
Yeah, I think so. And judging from like pretty early chats we've kind of seen with some ABL and MLB teams and even KBO and Japanese big league teams, like they want to send players over and they want to send better players over because there's a track record there and they know that it's a good caliber competition. So I think the quality of baseball you're going to see increase, and it to be honest, it's been increasing every year as it is anyways. I just hope we can find a way just to get somebody interested to want to pop down to a field and check out a local game, which is a big challenge on its own. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch regardless, especially if you're a baseball person. Like, you'll understand some names like Shota Imanaga, the Japanese ace who's about to come over to he's going to be a big leaguer next year, right? Like, he dominated the Australian Baseball League, right? Like, there's some pretty big names. Can I make one more point about the Australian Baseball League?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before the new meeting? All right. So one more thing with the Australian Baseball League that I think is like super interesting to hear from a development standpoint. And this goes back to kind of what you asked earlier about why teams send guys over. You hear it from all these minor leaguers at the end of the season. What's not focused on in minor league baseball, it is, but it isn't, is winning, right? Like, it's not about winning. It's about getting your innings in, getting your at-bats in, working on something part of your game, part of the system. And then you get to the big leagues, and what's the focus? It's winning. Like, that's all that matters at the big league level. Players, when they come to Australia that maybe struggled in the minor leagues, all of a sudden have a huge season because the emphasis is back on winning. And you hear players all the time say, wow, I remembered that baseball's meant to be fun again, because a player thrives maybe when they're asked to lay down a bunt or put on a sacrifice fly or whatever that may be, like that team element of it. So I think players love to be sent over here to figure out how they can win and be part of that puzzle again. And when you're a major league team looking at your player and you're seeing someone like a Samad Taylor do all those little things for the Canberra Cavalry, you're seeing Jake Fraley go reckless on the base pass and be super aggressive, not because he's looking for individual stats, but because that dude is hungry to help the Perth Heat win. Or you see Nick Ward all of a sudden lay down bunts or send sacrifice flies. Like, they find winners in this competition. And that, I think, is more important than a lot of development you can get in the minor leagues when you are playing to win the game rather than just to play to develop your own skills, and you're playing with your teammates rather than against your teammates to move on up. It's super fascinating.
Right. That's a really good point. And I think, people talk about it a lot and say, like, small ball's not emphasized anymore. Nobody knows how to lay down a bunt. And that's just the way the game of baseball has gone. But it's true. It's a good point. Australia's a little bit of a throwback to the, I guess, not so analytical days, for lack of a better term. And the fundamentals, I guess, are a little more emphasized. So that's a good point. Is there anything, Eric, that we're not talking about that you want to be known about baseball in Australia or anything?
No, I mean, I'm happy to. I think that's the more questions is on you. Like, I think I take it for granted, all the cool stories that I get to be around every day. So it's more interesting to hear, what our different audiences and markets are interested about Australian Baseball League. But it is cool. Like, as this chat's happening, like, if you want an example of the kind of stuff that I get to work on and be involved with, right now there's like all my phone is blowing up right now is we're trying to coordinate some media schedules for one of our players. So kid, 18
Okay.
years old, played in the under 18 World Cup, just got signed by the Boston Red Sox, right? And he's 18-year-old pitcher that's only lived in Australia. Like this guy's going to have to go to rookie ball, work his way up, all that. But because it's signed with the Boston Red Sox, that's a cool angle for us to go to media. So all this morning, I was sending out releases to different media stations saying, hey, this kid just signed with one of the biggest sporting clubs in the entire world. Like, this is a pretty big deal. You want to talk about it. And now a couple radio stations want to talk to him. A newspaper wants to organize a photo, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff that I try to do to try to make baseball a little bit better every day, right? Like if more people can know that there's a pathway, you can work hard, get signed by a club, and you never know. The rest is up to him and things need to happen. I get that, but that's the kind of stuff that I get to work on, and it's happening right now all the time.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that it feels like, just the right time, the right guy, like all of a sudden catches on and goes viral. And next thing people are paying way more attention to baseball.
The right time, the right guy is an interesting comment. And I think one thing that Australian baseball hasn't had in a long time is an everyday position player. And we haven't had an elite Australian everyday baseball player in the digital era, right? Like Dave Nelson, all throughout the 90s, was an everyday catcher and one of the best catchers in Brewers history. He was an all-star, but it was in the 90s, right? Like, there wasn't the same broadcast coverage, maybe one game a week in Australia. Now we can get MLB TV for $150 and we can watch every single game in multiple languages from all around the world in whatever time zone we want. Like, this is the difference between Liam Hendriks and Curtis Mead for me explaining to people is really, really hard, right? So you're a casual sports fan in Australia. Liam Hendriks, great player, great guy. But I have to say, hey, Ethan, if you want to watch an Australian player pitch, you need to tune in between 10 and 11 a.m. If the Chicago White Sox are winning a game and it's close and they're up by 1 or 2 runs and it's the bottom of the ninth, sometime between 10 and 11, Liam Hendriks might pitch if he didn't pitch the night before. Like, it's really, really hard to explain when to watch, right? Like, great to write, great to follow. That's not downplaying how important Liam Hendriks is to especially a winning team. That's not a shot at all. But Curtis Mead, it's really easy. Hey, Tampa Bay Rays play at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Curtis is going to play. Right. He's going to be third base. He's going to field some balls. He's going to have 3, 4, 5 turns at bats where you can just put the game on, and I can guarantee you can watch an Aussie play. You can do that with Ben Simmons whenever he was playing, or any Australian basketball player, right? Like, Patty Mills is playing 9 a.m. tomorrow. Watch it. We can't advertise that with pitchers in Australia because their schedules are so out of whack. So having a position player that is a great player on a good team would be awesome. Like, if Curtis Mead makes this playoff roster for the Rays and they go to the World Series, that has the potential to get some eyeballs on the sport, right?
I thought it was so funny when you're like, yeah, it's, it is harder to market like relief pitchers. And it's like, well, and of course, every single elite Australian player who's come so far other than Dave Nielsen has been like a back end of the bullpen guy.
And great at what they do. Like Pete Moylan, Grant Belfour, like those were unreal players.
Yeah. And it just happens that, hey, when can I watch Peter Moylan? Well, if the Braves have, 3 lefties coming up in the 7th inning and he hasn't pitched the night before, then they might put him in if they're ahead.
Yeah, and it's a hard conversation because they're like, then it's like, oh, what do you mean by lefties? And you're like, oh no, now we're going down the rabbit hole, right?
Now I have to explain the concept of splits.
Exactly, right? Like, it's a lot more complicated discussion when that stuff for a baseball fan is way more interesting than Curtis Mead is in the starting lineup. Like, that's boring. Right. That's not that interesting. But from a marketing standpoint, it's a lot easier to say, watch this 22-year-old Aussie play against the best players in the world every night for 162 days of a 180-day stretch or whatever that is.
So let me ask you this. So Curtis Mead, I feel confident saying, is going to be a star. Other than that, though, Liam Hendriks has obviously had some difficulties this year, none of them his fault. And so that's making things difficult. I think those are the only two Australians in the big leagues right now. And there are a couple guys like Alex Wells and Lewis Thorpe who floated around the past couple of years. Other than Curtis Mead and hopefully Liam Hendricks, if he can get his health back on track, who do you think are going to be the next Australians? Or I guess you could say an ABL alum, if you think too, that you think can really tap into something in the baseball in Australia world?
Yeah, I think Travis Bazana has the makeup and the potential to be that really engaging player that the Australian public falls in love with. He's a different cat, right? And people love, but he's very genuine. Like he's a very good, genuine person. And he's gone his own path and his own way his entire life. And, he was one of the best players in all of college baseball this year with Oregon State. And now he's going to be a senior. He just won the MVP of the Cape Cod League, which has you can't even count how many big leaguers have rolled through the Cape Cod League, that summer ball program. So he is engaging. He's different. He plays the game fun. He plays the game with some spirit. He's an everyday player. Could go. Some mock drafts have him going number 1 overall in the MLB draft. Most of them have him as a first rounder, right? Like if he just has a good senior year with Oregon State this year, he's going to be a first round draft pick. That is a player that I think is a name to keep your eye on, as a player that could really kind of capture the minds of the Australian public, because he's just like all of the Australians back home. Like people will really see themselves in him. That's not to say they can't in the other players, but an everyday player that maybe has the combination of big money, because Australians are drawn to he goes first overall. That means it's an $8 million signing bonus or whatever that might mean. So Bazana is definitely, I think, one to really, really keep your eye on that could be a bit of a game changer for Australian baseball.
Yeah, I think that's important to have. And you made a good point about having an everyday player. There really haven't been a lot of Australian. Do you know why that is? Is it just random? It seems like they only pump out relief pitchers and Curtis Mead.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Australia, if you look at the circumstances, it's not easy to become a big leaguer. There is not about that. But it's a lot easier to work on your pitching craft without having to face hitters, I suppose, right? Like you can throw a lot of bullpens, you can work on those fundamentals to get your velo up, to work on your spin rate, to all of those little things. And when you're a hitter, you just need at bats, right? Like you need high quality at bats. High quality at bats are hard to come by here. Whereas like that specialty stuff you can work on around the year, no matter where you are. Of course, you need to face batters to really, test yourself. But I think that has something to do with it. Like it's a lot harder to become a hitter when you don't have that quality pitching going against you. So yeah, well, I think that's probably one way to look at it. But Australia has there's a couple good relievers right now in the system, like Brandon Bidwa. He's a Texas Ranger minor leaguer. This dude was nasty. Look it up. I think he had 2 strikeouts per inning on average or something this year, Brandon Bidwa.
Yeah.
And he only allowed 1 earned run in his since August 1st or something crazy like that. Like he's a strikeout machine, a fastball that sits in the upper 90s. Like it's got movement. He could make the big leagues. I'd keep your eye on him. And then a Mariners boy, if you want Blake Townsend. Townsend's putting together a pretty nice minor league season the last couple months.
Dude, that's such an Australian name too. It just rolls right off the tongue
Townsend.
in the accent. It's perfect.
No, I feel like Robbie Glendenning.
Robbie Glendenning, yeah, he's been knocking on the door for a bit. That's another good Aussie name. But
it's such an Aussie name.
An Aussie commentator, Tom, right? With the Mariners, you get to hear Ryan Rowland-Smith if you're tuning in locally.
Ooh, yeah, our boy Ryan Rowland-Smith.
The hyphen.
Yeah. So we were actually talking about if Glendenning got the call up to the Orioles, which never seemed that likely this year, but we were like, dude, if Glendenning got the call to the Orioles, we got to go down and see him.
Oh.
And unfortunately, it's not looking good for him right now because the Orioles are awesome. So
he's in the Phillies system.
Well, he actually, he's playing Double-A with the Phillies now. Yeah,
with Rickson Wingrove, right?
Rickson.
That's another Australian name, Rickson Wingrove. And
they've got some great
an Adelaide guy too. He's he's a power bat, right? Like if he can be that left-handed powerful hitter and he can just hit bombs, like that's going to give him the best chance to go far. So, I mean, it's so hard to make the big leagues, man. Like I don't have to tell you guys that. It's just, but it's fun to watch these guys leave home and fly across the world and chase an absolute dream without that family support around. It's pretty cool to watch.
Oh, absolutely. So let me ask you this. So the ABL season's coming up, and I was really bummed to hear that both the Tuatara, the Auckland Tuatara, and Geelong Korea are both out. So now it's back down to 6 teams. And I have a question because when we were talking to Dan Vaughn, he talked a lot about how he thought the ABL was in a position to expand pretty soon and get maybe 2 more Australian teams. I don't know what cities. I'm not as familiar as I should be, I guess. But do you think that's a step backwards, or was it just the issue because it was between countries, like that was the problem, was the visa issues and COVID-19 and that stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of visa issues, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of logistics that involves playing in multiple countries, right? Like Australia is close to New Zealand, but that doesn't mean it's close to New Zealand, right? Like from Adelaide,
Right.
it's a 6 hour flight to get to Auckland. It's like a 10 hour, 11 hour flight or something like that to go from Perth to Auckland. So like it is hard to run a franchise, especially when you only get 20 home games and there's a lot of costs involved, whether it be Auckland, whether it be Geelong, Korea, that has to bring all their players and put them in a different city for a summer. So I don't think you can ever rule out that the ABL could expand, and I don't think those comments are far off. There's just a lot that needs to go right, and I think the ABL is still very much figuring out its own product and who they are. That those 6 teams, if they can just focus on getting that strong with the 6 teams in Australia, keep being a strong destination winter ball league, keep getting some solid players over here, keep developing Australian talent, you can never rule out wanting to expand again. But glad we certainly tried, right? Like you never know unless you sort of give it a go. And a lot of cool things have happened out of it. I wouldn't close the door on it, but certainly for this year, back to 6 teams. But I don't think it's necessarily a negative either. I think it'll allow us to really focus on what we do well within Australia and hopefully keep pumping that up. And KBO teams are going to do their spring. There's like 4 KBO teams that are going to be doing their spring training in Australia this year, right? Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, and it's perfect because it's the middle of winter in Korea. It's a long way to go to the United States. There's a lot of other baseball teams coming here, but you can send a team to Sydney. You can have the whole facility to yourself for a month with perfect weather every day of the year. So those connections between Baseball Australia and those countries, it's not like they're dead. They just look a little bit different. And you never know. Maybe there'll be some cool exhibitions that can be played against the Doosan Bears who are coming back over, or the Kia Tigers, or whatever that looks like.
I feel like that would be perfect, actually, because my understanding is that Team Australia, like the WBC squad, really only gets like a few warm-up games, and that's like the year leading up to a competition. They don't do a lot other than that, just because of the funding and everything. And who are you going to play against in Australia if you have all the best Australian players? So I feel like that would be perfect if they could get a couple games in against, KBO teams, things like that. I think they did that right before the pandemic. Didn't they play against the Bears?
Yeah, they did. They played against the Bears. That's when Curtis Mead made his debut for Team Australia in that game,
Okay.
right? It's a good opportunity to kind of see what you got. And now Australia is going to the Asia Professional Baseball Championships, which is like the best young pro players from Australia, Korea, Taiwan, and Japan play at the Tokyo Dome over 4 days in the middle of November. And again, that's another good opportunity for your young under 24 Australians. I don't know if he's on the roster or if he's allowed to go, but like Curtis Mead, I mean, he'll be asked to go. There's no doubt about that, right? Because Rohei Sasaki is going to be there for Japan. Like these are big names and other cool experiences they can get. You got to take what you can get in Australian
Yeah,
baseball.
definitely. Yeah. I have one more question. Do you have anything else you want to go with, Tom?
No, let's go with your question.
All right, I'll have the last word. So we
Yeah.
had a guy named David Long on who rode for, I can't remember the name of, I forget, Stuff New Zealand or whatever. But he like covered the Tuatara. And one of the things that he said was the Tuatara would, all their imports, or at least some of them, the like parent club would like subsidize their housing. They would like basically pay them to take the player and give them reps. Is that the case for all these teams? Because that sounds like the perfect business model to keep like the team and the sport alive.
That's exactly what it is. And that's exactly why both clubs like it, right? Like, the Phillies, for instance, they'll send over their players and they'll pay their players to play in Australia. They'll pay for their flights to send them over to Australia to get some seasoning. In Adelaide, at least, like I know we house them and we set them up with like a car. We get sponsors to help with that too. But yeah, I mean, Perth, I'm assuming it's the same thing there. The Tampa Bay Rays pay for their flights. They pay the players. So you're not paying the salaries of half of your roster, right? Like the Philadelphia Phillies are take care of that. But yeah, it's a great point. And it's I think why both teams we give them a place to play, they give us players. Like it's a really nice relationship and it works both ways, right? Like we have to the reporting back to the Phillies is a lot. And I know our head coach, Chris Adamson, he's a coach in the minor league system with the Phillies. So there's a good relationship anyways, but a lot of reporting on the data, the reps, what they're looking for. Maybe there's some cool players. Mitch Neuenborn got signed from Adelaide this year because of his relationship with Tank and the Phillies. And he had a great season in high A this year, and he'll be in double A, triple A next year for sure. So, there's some pretty cool pathways for Australian players to get signed because these MLB teams are watching the ABL as well.
That's awesome. That sounds perfect to keep things moving up. I don't want to keep you any longer, Eric. You said you got to go enjoy your time with your family really fast. We have a game we like to play called Elmer Descends where we name random baseball players and the most random player wins. Give me your Elmer Descends guy.
Oh my goodness. I got to think of but the thing is if I do that, then it's going to be like a random Australian baseball player.
It could be anyone you want.
Like the first name that honestly came to mind when you said that was James Beresford.
Twins, great. Now you go first though, because I got a good name.
All right. I got Mitch Stetter.
Mitch Stetter. Where was Mitch? What's the story of Mitch Stetter?
I think he was a Brewer.
I think he was on the Brewers in 2008 when they played the Phillies. That's a good bullpen to pull randos from. Give me
an Aussie really fast, Tom. Since we're doing
I gotta go with an Australian guy.
I got an Aussie in the chamber.
I gotta go with an Australian guy. Can I go with Travis Blackley?
Oh,
yeah, okay.
Blackley was a gun as well, and then he came back to the ABL, pitched in Brisbane, helped him to a couple championships. Like Blackley's a great name as well. He's not so random where I'm from, where I'm living right now.
Right,
he's the guy to talk to. He seems like a really interesting character.
Yeah.
All right, you can go after this, Eric. Trent Durrington.
So his kid. Actually, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to actually double check this on the spot. So I'm fairly certain that his son is actually named to the MLB select team. He's like 16 years old. So there's this. Yeah, it is. Durrington. There it is. Max Durrington. That's Trent's son. So his son is like an under 16 player in Australia, a pretty good baseball player. He was just named to an MLB select team that goes over and plays against Kansas City Royals minor league players, other colleges. The MLB funds it, and it's an opportunity for Aussie players and world players to get scouted, go to college, or sign an MLB contract. And he's one of those players that's going over like in next week to Arizona. So his son is the next level. So that's a great random name. But yeah, he's the next generation's moving on.
I am mad at myself. Do you play Immaculate Grid?
I do not, but I have seen a lot of Immaculate Grid go on with the Red Sox lately.
I'm mad at myself because I got Twins Tigers today, and for like months I've been like, when I get Twins Tigers, I'm doing Brad Thomas. Nobody else is going to say Thomas, and I forgot. I put Adam Everett. I completely forgot.
There's a lot of Twins connections as well. Like Liam Hendricks was signed by the Twins originally. Like there's a lot of. The Minnesota Twins have been good for Aussie baseball. Louis Thorpe was the latest one. But yeah, the Twins, the Wells brothers have been connected with the Twins before. So yeah, it's
Don't forget James Beresford.
Jimmy Beresford, baby. Let's go.
Twins legend.
Twins.
I know you got to go. Why is he still not on Team Australia? He's probably not that old, right?
He's not playing baseball anymore.
Oh, that would explain it.
But you're right. He's not that old, and he's not that old. But yeah, he made the big leagues, and then I guess it was the end of the day for James Beresford. But he was on another World Baseball Classic team. But yeah, doesn't play baseball anymore.
More of a big leaguer than I'll ever be. Well, Eric,
True.
So much. Tell people where to find you, where to find ABL stuff, how to check it out. Give them everything.
On social media, follow Australian Baseball League. Just type that in on whatever you got. Team Australia Baseball will give you all, like, if you want a team to support that's outside your own country, American, Canadian, whatever that is, make Australia your second favorite team. So follow Team Australia Baseball and do what all the Japanese people already do, and make us number 2.
Eric, thank you so much. You go enjoy your time with your family, and let's do this again if you didn't hate it.
Yeah, we'll chat mid ABL season or something. I'll give you.
Oh hell yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'll try to think of another random Aussie for you.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks, boys.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to the Audio Issues Podcast. Okay, we've been having a great time with all of our various technical difficulties today. almost none of this podcast has not been plagued by it. So, make of that what you will. I would say that it's a blip on an otherwise very well organized and produced podcast.
You're calling our podcast well produced?
Why are you saying that incredulously?
Why don't we call Eric back, get his opinion?
Yeah. So, yeah, speaking of that, Eric, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Eric, thank you so much.
Thanks for putting up with us, and also thanks for, giving us the inside scoop on what ABL's up to, the media landscape around ABL, because it's something that, us here over in the United States, we probably don't really have much of any way of engaging with that outside of like Twitter. So, it is cool to get a firsthand look at how baseball's doing down under, especially in the wake of their World Baseball Classic Cinderella run.
I figured I'd just put you on ice there for a second.
Yeah. You like I waited you out.
You totally did. No, Eric.
He tried to ice the kicker. It's NFL season now. So he tried to ice the kicker, and you know what? I split the uprights anyway. But guys, we have, we've been discussing. We've had some real tense negotiations behind the scenes, and we're thinking, since I have not done Immaculate Grid yet.
Yeah, really fast. I just came up with an idea on the spot.
Oh.
Because today's Immaculate Grid sucks. It's got a bunch of pitching categories, and it's not going to be fun.
For teams that have historically had pretty bad pitching, by the way.
What if?
Mm-hmm.
We've played Elmer Descendants before. And if you remember with Orvin, we played team-specific Elmer Descendants, right? So,
okay.
Yankees, you got to give me that guy. What if we played Immaculate Elmer Descendants? Here's what I'm thinking. I'll give you two teams. You got to give me a rando. You give me two teams that played for both, that kind of thing. So, for instance, if I said like...
No. I get the concept. I don't want you to spoil somebody I might pull, so...
All right. You want to try it?
Okay. Give me two teams.
Rockies, Tigers.
Ryan Rayburn. That's easy.
Easy. Come on.
That was like the easiest one of all time.
I wasn't setting you up. Those were just two names that come to mind. Go ahead. Give me one.
Give me Brewers, Orioles.
Brewers, Orioles. K-Rod.
There you go. Is he really a rando, though?
I feel like he was rando on both those teams. All right. How about, I think this guy was a Brewer. How about Jan Marinez?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, that's more like it. I'm pretty sure he was a Brewer. Somebody fact check me.
Here, you know what? Let's fact check you.
Yeah, and he's right.
How do you spell Marinez?
So it's Jan, Jan Marinez. So it's Martinez without the T.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Brewers, Orioles. There you go.
Perfect.
That's incredible. How did you get that guy?
Because he's got a silly name. Because his name should be, in my head, it should be Juan Martinez, but he's like one letter off in each name.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. You
No. You got to give me teams now.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. How about A's White Sox?
Was Jarrell Cotton on both of those teams?
Oh, I don't think he was a White Sox.
Oh, damn it. A's White Sox. I don't think Jameel Weeks was a White Sox.
I don't think so. That's a good name though.
I don't think Connor Gillespie was an A.
No.
I mean, Gio Gonzalez was on both of those teams, wasn't he? But that's not really a rando.
I can't believe you haven't said a guy yet. You love this guy.
I do.
Yeah, he's an oaf.
Billy Butler? He wasn't a White Sox.
Adam Dunn.
Well, he's not a rando.
Yeah, it's true, but
You want me to make this game fun, or do you want me to just get the first guy who comes to mind?
well, we can't get
A's White Sox, Frank Thomas.
we can't get stuck on one forever. Just give
Okay, all right. You get. I'm going to throw you a bone here, okay? Because I know this is going to get me a good name. All right. I want to hear your best poll for Twins Phillies.
Oh. Oh, Twins. Now, see, I could say like Nick Punto, right?
I mean, you're off to a great start.
I think I'm liking maybe like Blake Perkins, something like that.
Mm.
Some little Blake Perkins for you. Jim Thome obviously would be too obvious, but I got a name. You ready?
Can I guess who it is?
Sure.
Is it Delman Young?
No, but that's a good name. I think these guys equally random. Kyle Loesch.
Ooh. He was a twin?
I think he started as a twin.
Did he?
I think he went
I'm
Twins.
not going to fact check that. I believe you. All right.
I think he went Twins, Cardinals, Phillies, and then like Brewers.
Okay, let me have another one final round.
All right, all right. I'm having fun, man. I can play this for an hour. All right,
Well,
I'll give you
this,
a Phillies.
This is to the public, you know.
Phillies, Cubs.
Phillies, Cubs.
Yeah,
I feel like Nate Shearholtz is low hanging fruit.
it's pretty random.
Phillies, Cubs.
I got one in mind.
I might not be able to top Nate Shearholtz off the top of my head. Scott Air.
Oh, Scott Ayer's very random.
Now, who's yours?
Cody Ransom.
Oh, who's more random?
Ready? If you want to tell us who's more random, feel free to email us at thebaseballpod@gmail.com or reach out on Twitter at thebaseballpod2 at or on that's the handle. That's the Twitter handle. I want to keep playing. Come on, give me another team.
Yeah, you get one more round. I'm going to give you Yankees. Let's go. I want a really good one for this one, okay? I want Yankees Marlins.
Can I throw out a name and you tell me how random it is?
I'm okay with that. I would consider that a good experiment.
Garrett Jones.
That's pretty good. You know, the only time you don't get credit for that is if you pull him as a pirate.
How about Nick Johnson?
Ooh. Nick Johnson, who famously, in the words of former co-host Cousin Ed, Nick's course broke his hand signing his contract. One of the most injury-prone players of all time.
Who's more random between those two?
Oh, Garrett Jones. Especially Marlins Yankees Garrett Jones.
It's not even close to you?
No, Garrett G.I. Jones, brother.
Oh, was Martin Prado a Yankee?
I don't think so.
All right.
That doesn't sound familiar.
All right.
I think he was like a D-back, a Marlin, a Brave. What else? Was he a Dodger?
All right. I refuse to be done. How about...
All right. One more round.
We're going to keep saying that until I'm satisfied. You give me... how about Mariners, Indians? Mariners, Guardians. Mariners, Cleveland, whatever.
Okay. Is it too easy if I just go with Franklin Gutierrez?
Yes. I mean, that's a good name, but no, I want to get off in the weeds here.
What about like Abraham Almonte?
Oh, beautiful. See, I always think Ben.
I have to fact check that. Hold on.
No, I think that's right.
Abraham Almonte.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I give you two teams, I usually have a guy in mind of like who I would put for that square. Right. And mine is
Abraham Almonte.
Mine for those two teams is Ben Broussard.
Ooh. I think Abraham Almonte is better than that.
Abraham Almonte is pretty random. All right,
okay. Let's go Royals. Royals Padres. You're not allowed to say Will Myers. You're not allowed to say Eric Hosmer. You got to come with a true rando.
Will Myers never played for the Royals. They traded him.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they traded him to the Rays, didn't they?
Yeah. Did you say Royals Padres?
Yeah. So no Eric Hosmer. Not random enough.
I gotta look this one up when
Although in like 20 years, Eric Hosmer would be an incredible pull for this combo.
I gotta look it up after I say this, but I think Australian baseball legend Justin Huber.
Okay, I'm fact checking this. Justin Huber.
I'm pretty sure.
That's the winner, by the way, if that's true. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I'm still not done. I'm having too much fun.
How did you know that?
Like I knew he was a Royal because I think he played like a little bit there. Like he played for like a year or two. And I think he had a drink with the Padres, and I only know that because there's this Australian baseball.com.au has like a YouTube channel, and they have
Right.
a playlist of each Australian that made the major leagues up to a certain point. I don't think they like keep up with it, but they'll have like it's like 30 seconds on each player, and it's like a little clip of them doing something great. And for like
Yeah,
Liam
where'd they
Hendriks,
find 30 seconds of Justin Huber
well, that's the
highlights?
thing. For like Grant Balfour and Dave Nielsen and stuff, there's plenty of highlights. For like Justin Huber and stuff, you just got to take what you can get. And there's one clip of Justin Huber taking like an ancient Randy Johnson yard when he was on the Giants. That like pops in my head, and he was a Padre in that clip, so that's what made me think of it.
Okay. All right.
All right, you give me a B-back White Sox.
Oh, who's that pitcher? Is it Daniel Hudson I'm thinking of?
Oh, nice. See, Carlos Quentin popped into my head, but he's not random.
That's a good one.
Although cousin N saying Carlos Quentin is out with his usual case of aching knee. Daniel Hudson's a good one. All right, my turn.
Okay, I'm giving you let's go Braves. Braves Rangers.
I mean, Andrew Jones isn't random enough.
No.
But
No,
Rangers,
you can't go with
Yeah,
arguably the greatest defensive center fielder of all time.
yeah, Rangers Andrew Jones though.
Very random,
It's very-
but not random enough on the Braves.
How about Darren?
Disqualified.
How about Darren O'Day?
Oh,
You
I
like
thought you were gonna
that?
say Darren Oliver.
That would be pretty good.
I don't know if he was a Brave though.
Is that random enough?
Darren O'Day. Yeah, he's a reliever.
Oh no, I got it. Jared Saltalamacchia.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Excellent work.
All right, you give me Rays Mets.
Rays Mets. Oh, Jorge Sosa.
See, I thought of Victor Zambrano.
Yeah, they're the same guy in my head, but Jorge Sosa's more random.
I couldn't tell you a single team Jorge Sosa played for.
That I had that combo in Immaculate Grid, and I put in Jorge Sosa, and then I was like, was Victor Zambrano also on both of those teams? And I looked it up, and he was.
Yeah. Victor Zambrano got traded for Scott Kazmir. That was a bad deal for the Mets.
Okay, all right. How about Angels? Angels Rockies.
Oh, see, Chris Iannetta is a little too.
He's. I mean, I don't know. We're kind of getting away from the point where anybody would know who Chris Iannetta is.
Yeah, but he was like a decent player for a while.
He was sort of the CJ Crone of his time.
Another Angel Rocky.
Yeah.
Angels Rockies. Like, there's got to be like a bad pitcher that I can't think. Oh, I got one. Brian Fuentes.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Justin Spire.
Oh, that wins. I didn't know he was an Angel.
You know what? Let's verify that. I'm pretty sure he was an Angel, but I have to be certain. I don't want to get a fake win, you know. Yep, there you go. 3 years on the Angels.
All right, your turn. Blue Jays Mariners.
I mean, you have Michael Saunders, but that's not random enough. It's a borderline. Oh, is Brandon League
Oh,
good for this one?
beautiful. Beautiful.
And Brandon Maurer, right?
No, Brandon Morrow.
No, who am I thinking of?
Brandon Morrow.
Yeah, another relief.
No,
pitcher
Brandon
that
Lee
hurt
is
all the
really
time.
good.
All Brandons. It's all
Look,
Brandon's today.
Brandon Maurer, ABL guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. All right.
That's right.
How about Reds? Reds Astros.
Well, Joe Morgan, but that's not
Nice rando Joe Morgan.
Reds Astros.
I have one, and I have to check them while you think because this is a good one.
Oh, Scott Feldman.
Ooh. Okay, I'm going with Jeff Keppinger.
Oh, Jeff Keppinger wins. Jeff Keppinger's super random. All right. Let's see. How about Yankees Mets?
Yankees Mets. Was Benny Agbayani on the Yankees?
I don't think he was.
Damn it. You get like David Cohn.
No, come on.
He's not random enough.
He was good.
Let's see. A nice little rando for this. He's only random on the Mets side, but Gary Sheffield.
No.
His appearance on the Mets was very random, but the rest of his career obviously was not.
Yeah, Braves legend Gary Sheffield.
Mets, Yankees. This one is beating me up a little bit.
I got a name in mind you're gonna like.
Well, don't say it yet. Don't say it yet. Was Tyler Clippard ever on the Mets? I don't think he was.
I feel like he might have done the rounds. Let's see.
I mean, he did the rounds, but I don't know if he did it on the Mets.
I started typing in Clippard, and a guy showed up named Clipper Flynn.
That guy.
Tyler Clippard was a Met. Who knew?
There you go. Do I get credit for that? Because I don't think I knew that. I think that was a dart throw.
My guy was Luis Ayala.
Oh. All right. How about Red Sox, Pirates?
Oh, come on, dude. Joel Hanrahan.
Yeah. You want to know who mine is? Mine is Pedro Siriaco.
Pedro Siriaco. Beautiful. All right. How about Pirates, Blue Jays?
Pirates, Blue Jays. Was James McDonald a Blue Jay?
No, he was a Dodger. I'm setting you up for one that I know you're gonna like.
Lyle Overbay?
No, but keep thinking on that like Blue Jays team.
Oh, Travis Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew you'd like that.
I had the handedness and I had I think maybe the position right. Actually, I think Snyder was a left fielder, but okay. All right, last round. All right, we got to make this one good. I mean, new A's. Let's go A's, Orioles.
Oh, Jameel Weeks.
There you go. There you go. This comes full circle.
Yeah, come on. It all comes back around.
It always comes back to Jameel Weeks.
Yeah. If we're doing current, I think Cole Irvin is going to be pretty random.
I used him in Immaculate Grid the other day, and it was not a great pull. It was like 8%. So.
Yeah, because he's current.
Yeah. All right. Final round.
Like 10 years from now, Cole Irvin isn't going to be a winner.
Yeah. Are we doing? Am I getting one more?
Wait,
or is it...
Really fast. A's, Orioles. I should have said Jack Cust.
Yeah, you should have.
That's on me. All right. All right, your last one. Braves, Rays.
Yeah. Is Kelly Johnson sufficiently random for that?
Come on, Kelly Johnson was good. Also, what a weird sentence to say. Kelly Johnson was good.
Was Brooks Conrad on the Rays?
He sure was.
There you go. That's gotta no. I think Pedro Siriaco is a deeper cut than that, but that's got to be close.
I mean, what's the winner today?
Probably Justin Huber.
Although I will say, what's more random, Justin Huber or James Beresford?
Well, Listen, you're playing James Beresford over Justin Huber on the rando team every time.
Yeah, James Beresford is pretty.
Now, who's something we haven't talked about is Randy Choate still the season winner? Is he still the season MVP, or has he been outdone by like Wes Whistler?
No, because that's fraudulent.
Well, it's not really fraudulent. It's just playing with different rules.
Those aren't, yeah, but that's not somebody's like true baseball. Like, wow, remember that guy? That's just Colin going, that guy's.
Now, when Kenny pulled out Jan Hervis Solarte.
No. Kenny pulling out Daryl Rasner.
Oh, yeah.
I still don't know who that is.
I don't know. We'll make a Twitter poll. We'll come up with like some finalists. Randy Choate's the only spit take so far.
Yeah, Randy Choate was amazing.
Eric Wedge, by the way, too, for the manager edition. That he was the clear winner on that.
If you remember, we played 2 rounds of managers, and I said Eric Wedge and Don Wakamatsu. Real fast. Let's do a manager round. Do a manager round. Give me one.
Oh no. I got to do a manager. Did I do Nick Leva before?
Nick. All right, you ready? Nick Leva's a good one. Ready? Jim Riggleman.
No, you used him last time.
I did?
Yeah.
When did I use Jim Riggleman?
James Riggleman. I don't know. You want him? You want him?
No, that's all right. That's all right. How about Jack McKeon?
Isn't that dude like a Hall of Fame manager?
I don't know.
Oh, I do. You know, damn it. Bobby Cox. That's who I had.
All right. Ready?
Tip of my tongue.
Rick Renteria.
There you go.
That's
maybe even a little Ron Washington.
No, come on. He went to back-to-back World Series.
Well, did he win either of them?
He's no Walt Weiss.
Well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. He's no Clint Hurdle.
Oh, Clint Hurdle's a good one, man.
But listen, I think we've wasted enough of people's time. Okay,
that's true.
I just want to say before we go, like Davis,
easy.
And you know, there is one thing. There is one thing that I can't do it. I'm not set up for drops. You know what? Well, I'll do it. I'll do it analog. There is one thing that we know for sure about Ike Davis.
That he was Yankees Pirates great.
We do know. Well, that's okay. So there's 2 things we know for sure. We know that, and we also know that he cannot, under any circumstances, make claim to the following statement, which is, his name is Dan.
It doesn't work as well.
No, well, dude, I'm doing what I can, all right?
Doing an analog.
Yeah, we're doing, this is like playing a vinyl, you know? Oh, it's got that great vinyl sound.
Yeah, kids today don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, it's not on my iPad. But yeah, so we know that, and one thing that we do know about Dan Uggla is that he, as well as we, I did not mean to turn this into Dr. Seuss, but we'll see you on the next one.